There are wounds that no one sees. There are pains that dwell in the silence of the soul. And there's a kind of abandonment that hurts more than any loneliness. The abandonment of yourself, when you forget who you are in God's eyes. When you lose yourself in others' expectations. When your own voice falls silent. That's when life becomes too heavy. But what if I told you that the healing you seek is already within you? Today, you're going to discover that loving yourself isn't selfishness, it's obedience to the divine. That caring for your soul isn't vanity, it's sacred. And that when you unite self-love and spirituality, something miraculous happens. You become whole again. Stay with me until the end, because this journey will show you the way back home. And that home is inside your own heart. If you're here now, it's because something in you is asking for attention. Maybe it's the exhaustion. Maybe it's the feeling of emptiness. Or maybe it's just that gentle voice whispering, you deserve more. And I want to tell you, with all the tenderness in the world, you do deserve it. You deserve love. You deserve peace. You deserve to be seen, heard, and cared for. And you know by whom you most deserve to be loved. By yourself. We live in a world that teaches us to give, to serve, to be available. And that's beautiful. It's generous. It's divine. But somewhere along that path, many of us forgot to include our own name on the list of people who deserve our love. We forgot to look within, to ask, how is my heart today? We forgot that we can't give what we don't have, and that we can't truly love others if we're empty inside. Self-love isn't about putting yourself above others. It's not about selfishness or indifference. It's about recognizing that you are a divine creation, that there's light in you, that there's purpose in your existence. It's about treating yourself with the same compassion you offer to those you love. It's about understanding that caring for yourself doesn't distance you from God, it brings you closer. Because when you love yourself, you honor the love that God placed in you. When you care for your soul, you're caring for the sacred temple that houses the divine. And when you allow yourself to be who you truly are, without masks, without guilt, without fear, you're living the deepest truth of spirituality. The truth that you are loved, exactly as you are. Today, we'll walk together through this journey of union. The union between the love you feel for yourself and the faith you have in the divine. We'll explore how these two forces, when they meet, have the power to heal old wounds, to calm internal storms, and to return to you the peace you thought was lost. Breathe deeply. Allow yourself to be here, in T's moment. Allow yourself to listen, feel, and if necessary, cry. Because sometimes, tears are just the soul expressing itself. And that's okay. You're safe here. You're home. Let's begin this conversation by looking at what hurts. Because only when we acknowledge the pain can we begin to heal it. And I promise, on the other side of this journey, there's light. There's rebirth. There's you, whole again. Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? Have you looked in the mirror and not recognized who was staring back at you? Have you had the feeling that you're meeting expectations, following scripts, doing everything right, but inside, something is fading away? This is the silent pain of self-abandonment, and it's more common than we imagine. From early on, we learn to be what others need, the perfect daughter, the obedient son, the available friend, the dedicated professional, the understanding partner. And in each of these versions of ourselves, we leave a little piece of our essence behind. We keep molding ourselves, adjusting ourselves, diminishing ourselves, until one day we wake up and realize, I don't know who I am anymore. And then comes the guilt. Because how can you feel empty if you have so much? How can you feel lonely if you're surrounded by people? How can you feel something's missing if you're doing everything you should be doing? But the truth, my dear, is that you can have everything and still feel lost. Because having isn't the same as being, and being surrounded by people isn't the same as being connected with yourself. The pain of not loving yourself is subtle. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It appears in the exhaustion that never passes, in the feeling of always owing something, in the difficulty of saying no, in the critical voice that lives in your head and never gives you rest, in the certainty that you're not enough, that you need to do more, be more, give more, It appears when you put yourself last, when you postpone your dreams, when you ignore your needs, when you believe that caring for yourself is selfishness, that your desires don't matter, that your pain isn't valid. And you know what's most painful? It's that often no one notices, because you've become so good at hiding, so skilled at smiling even when you're bleeding inside, that people truly believe you're fine. And you try to believe it too, until you can't anymore. Until the mask becomes too heavy, until the body starts speaking through exhaustion, anxiety, illnesses that appear without explanation, until the soul screams through emptiness, through sadness that has no name, through the feeling of just existing, but not living. And maybe you've tried to fill that emptiness with work, with relationships, with achievements, with anything that made you feel valued, important, necessary, but nothing truly worked, did it? Because the emptiness you feel can't be filled from the outside in. It can only be healed when you look inside and recognize, I abandoned myself. And that recognition, that recognition hurts. It hurts to admit that you've been treating yourself with a harshness you'd never treat another person. It hurts to realize that you've been your own executioner, your most severe critic, your most relentless judge. It hurts to understand that you've been denying yourself the love, the compassion, the kindness that you so generously offer to others. But you know what? This pain is necessary because it's what wakes you up. It's what shows you that something needs to change. It's what brings you here, to this moment of pause, of listening, of courage to truly look at what's happening inside you. And I want to tell you, with all the love that exists in these words, it's not too late. It's never too late to return to yourself. It's never too late to start loving yourself. It's never too late to heal. You don't need to keep carrying this weight alone. You don't need to keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. You don't need to keep sacrificing yourself until you completely fade away. Because here, in this space, you have permission to feel, to cry, to admit that you're tired, hurt, lost, and especially, you have permission to start over, to choose yourself, to say, I matter. My life matters. My heart matters. And that's the first step. Recognizing the pain, giving it a name, looking at it without judgment and saying, it's okay. I understand. And now, we're going to take care of you. Now, breathe with me, because we're going to look at this pain with different eyes. We're going to bring it into the light of spirituality, where everything gains deeper meaning, where nothing is by chance, where even pain has purpose. Did you know that self-love is actually a spiritual act? That when you love yourself, you're recognizing the divine work that you are. Think with me. If God created you, if He placed life in you, if He gave you gifts, talents, a unique soul, how can you not love yourself? How can you reject, criticize, or abandon what the Creator Himself made with such care? When you don't love yourself, you're saying that God made a mistake, that His work isn't good enough, that you, somehow, don't deserve the love He already placed in you from the beginning. And my dear, that's not humility. That's spiritual ingratitude. True humility is recognizing that you're small before the universe, but immense in God's eyes. It's understanding that you're not perfect, but you're perfectly loved. It's accepting that you have flaws, but that these flaws don't diminish your value. Because your value doesn't come from what you do, it comes from who you are. And who are you? You are a son, a daughter of the light. You're divine energy in human form. You are a walking miracle. Even when you don't feel like one, even when you're tired, broken, lost, even on your worst days, there's something in you that's sacred, untouchable, eternal. Spirituality teaches us that we're not separated from God, that He's not somewhere distant, watching from afar. He's in us, breathes through us, loves through us. And when we treat ourselves with cruelty, when we deny love to ourselves, we're closing the door to this divine presence. But when we love ourselves, when we love ourselves, something magical happens. We create space for God to fully dwell in us. We become open channels of love, peace, and light. And this light doesn't stay just in us, it radiates, touches others, transforms the world around us. Do you know why Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself? Because he knew you can't give what you don't have. If you don't love yourself, you don't know how to truly love. You can serve, you can sacrifice, you can do everything for others. But without self-love, it becomes martyrdom, it becomes burden, it becomes resentment. True love, divine love, flows freely. It doesn't exhaust, doesn't sicken, doesn't demand. And it can only flow this way when it's born from a heart that's full, from a heart that allows itself to receive before giving, from a heart that understands that caring for itself isn't selfishness, it's spiritual responsibility. Think of the trees. They give fruit, give shade, give oxygen. But before giving all that, they care for their roots. They nourish themselves. They strengthen themselves. And it's precisely because they care for themselves that they can be so generous. You also need to care for your roots. Need to nourish yourself. Need to strengthen yourself. Not to become selfish, but to become strong enough to sustain all the love you want to offer the world. And here's the most beautiful truth. God wants you to be happy. He doesn't want you to suffer. Doesn't want you to sacrifice yourself until you're lost. Doesn't want you to live a gray life, just fulfilling duties, just surviving. He wants you to flourish, to shine, to live with fullness, joy, and peace. And that fullness begins within you. It begins when you look in the mirror and, instead of seeing flaws, see a divine creation. When you hear your inner voice and, instead of criticism, offer compassion. When you feel your emotions and, instead of repressing them, embrace them with love. Spirituality isn't about denying who you are. It's about embracing who you are and allowing God to work through that truth. It's about understanding that you don't need to be perfect to be loved, because God's love isn't conditional. It doesn't depend on what you do, what you achieve, or how many times you get it right. It simply is just as you simply are. And in that being, in that pure existence, there's a beauty that no external achievement can surpass. So when you feel you're not enough, remember, you already are. You were already born enough. You were already born complete. And all you need to do is return to that truth. Return home. Return to yourself. And God is waiting for you there, in your moments of silence, in your moments of pain, in your moments of doubt. He's saying, softly, you are mine. You are loved. You are important. And I'm here. Always have been. Always will be. Now, you just need to believe. Need to take the first step toward yourself. And that step, my dear, is an act of faith. Faith that you deserve love. Faith that you can change. Faith that, no matter how lost you are, God can find you, because He never lost sight of you. And now, with your heart a little more open, with your soul a little more willing, let's walk together along the path of healing. Because recognizing the pain was the first step. Understanding its spiritual meaning was the second. And now, it's time to act. To transform understanding into practice. No, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time, and now you know more. Now you can do differently. It's saying, okay, this is where I am, and from there I can begin to rebuild myself. Because you can't change what you don't accept. You can't heal what you keep denying. So breathe. Breathe, place your hand on your heart and say, even if silently, I accept myself. Exactly as I am now. With my wounds, my fears, my imperfections. I accept myself and feel these words. Let them in. Let them begin to soften the walls you built around your heart. The second step is forgiveness. And this may be the most difficult, because you need to forgive yourself. Forgive for all the times you put yourself last. For all the times you ignored your own limits. For all the times you believed the voices that diminished you. For all the times you betrayed yourself to please others. Forgiving isn't forgetting. It's releasing. It's letting go of the weight. It's saying, I did the best I could, and now I choose to move forward without carrying this guilt. And you know what happens when you forgive yourself? You create space. Space for the new. Space for love. Space for God to work in you. And here comes prayer. Not that memorized, mechanical prayer that you repeat without feeling, but true prayer. Intimate conversation with the divine. Prayer that's born from the heart and says, I need help. I can't do this alone. Show me the way. Give me strength. Teach me to love myself as you love me. Pray every day, in the morning, upon waking, before picking up your phone, before starting the rush. Place your hands on your chest and connect with the sacred that lives in you. Ask for guidance. Ask for healing. Ask for clarity. And then, throughout the day, whenever you feel you're losing yourself again, return to that connection. Breathe. Pray. Remember that you're not alone, and along with prayer, practice presence. Presence in the present moment, because it's so easy to live in the past, rehashing regrets, or in the future, feeding anxieties. But life, true life, only happens now. In this instant, in T's breath, when you're present, you can hear your soul. You can perceive what you truly need. You can feel when you're forcing yourself too much, when you're betraying yourself, when you're distancing yourself from yourself. And then, you can do differently. You can pause. You can choose yourself. It could be having that tea you love, calmly savoring each sip. At first, it'll feel strange. It might even feel fake, but continue, because every transformation begins with a small seed of intention. And when you water that seed every day with acts of love, it grows, it strengthens, it becomes real. There will be days when you'll return to old patterns. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means you're human. And the path of healing isn't a straight line. It's a path with curves, with comings and goings, with stumbles and fresh starts. It's every time you get lost, you find yourself again with more love. And remember, you're not doing this just for yourself. When you heal, when you learn to love yourself, you're creating ripples. You're changing the energy around you. You're teaching, through example, that it's possible, that it's sacred, that it's necessary. People will feel it. They'll notice there's something different about you. A peace, a lightness, a light. And without needing to say anything, you'll be showing the way. You'll be living proof that self-love and spirituality, when united, have the power to transform everything. So, continue. Step by step, day after day, choice after choice. And trust. Trust that God is guiding you. Trust that you're on the right path. Trust that even when you don't feel it, you're healing, and that each small act of love you offer yourself is taking you closer and closer to who you truly are. And then, something begins to change. It's not dramatic, it's not sudden, but it's real. You wake up one day and notice that your breathing is lighter, that the weight on your chest has lessened, that for the first time in a long time, you feel ... hopeful. Faith that seemed dormant, buried under layers of pain and disillusionment, begins to awaken. And with it comes a feeling of renewal, as if something inside you is being reborn. As if spring is arriving after a long and lonely winter. You begin to notice signs, small everyday miracles that previously went unnoticed. The birds singing at your window, a friend's message at the exact moment you needed it, the sun breaking through the clouds after the storm. And you understand, God has always been speaking to you. You just weren't listening. But now you are. Now you're attentive. Now you're open. And that openness changes everything. The renewal of faith isn't about going back to believing in God, because deep down, you never stopped believing. It's about going back to trusting that you're being cared for, that you're being guided, that even in the darkest moments, there's a hand holding you, preventing you from falling completely. And when you understand this, when you truly feel this, something inside you surrenders. You stop fighting so much. Stop trying to control everything. Stop thinking you need to carry the world on your shoulders alone. You surrender, and in surrender, you find freedom. You begin to see your journey with different eyes. That pain you carried, it taught you compassion. That moment when you felt lost, it taught you to seek. Those times when you abandoned yourself, they taught you the value of choosing yourself. Nothing was in vain. Nothing was by chance. Each tear watered the soil where your renewed faith now blooms. Each dark night prepared your eyes to see the light with more gratitude. Each fall strengthened your knees so you could rise more firmly. And you begin to give thanks. Give thanks even for the pains, because they were what brought you here. They were what forced you to stop, to look weakened, to begin this journey back to yourself. And in that return, you found more than you expected. You found God waiting for you. Prayer now has a different flavor. It's no longer a desperate plea. It's a conversation, an intimacy, a moment of true connection where you don't need to pretend, don't need to be strong, don't need to have all the answers. You can simply be, and that's... And that's... You feel the divine presence in ways that were previously impossible. In silence, you feel it. In nature, you see it. In people, you recognize it. And in yourself. In yourself, you finally accept it. Because now you understand, you're not separated from God. You're an extension of His love. You're a manifestation of His creativity. You're a son, a daughter who was always loved, even when you felt unworthy of that love. And with that understanding comes a new strength. A gentle but unshakable strength. The strength of faith that doesn't need proof, because it simply knows. The strength of trust that isn't shaken by storms because it's anchored in something eternal. You still have challenges, still have difficult days, still have moments of doubt. But now, you have a foundation. You have firm ground beneath your feet. You have a light that doesn't go out, even when everything around you darkens. And that light, ... That light is you. It's who you've always been, waiting to be rediscovered. It's self-love meeting spirituality and creating something sacred. It's you, whole for the first time. You, at peace for the first time. You, at home for the first time. And in that home, in that internal dwelling you built with faith and love, you finally rest. And in rest, you renew yourself. And in renewal, you become ready for the next chapter. A chapter where you're no longer the person who survives. You're the person who lives. Fully. Completely. divinely. And now, you look at the world with different eyes. Eyes that saw the darkness and chose the light. Eyes that cried so much they can now see more clearly. Eyes that carry in them the wisdom of one who walked through the valley and reached the mountaintop. You look at yourself in the mirror and something is different. It's not that you've changed physically, it's that the way you see yourself has completely changed. Before, you saw flaws, failures, insufficiencies. Now, you see a story. You see scars that are medals of survival. You see expression lines that tell of smiles given and received. You see a real human being, imperfect, but deeply valuable. You no longer seek validation outside. You no longer need others to tell you you're enough to believe it. Because now you know deep in your soul, in that place no external criticism can reach. You are enough. You always were. And that certainty isn't arrogance. It's freedom. Your relationship with silence has changed. Before, silence was uncomfortable, because in it, you heard all the criticisms, all the fears, all the insecurities. But now, silence is sacred. It's where you meet yourself. It's where you hear God's voice. It's where you simply breathe and exist, without needing to prove anything to anyone. You've begun to establish boundaries, and that was revolutionary. Boundaries that you previously thought were selfish, you now understand are necessary. You learn to say no without guilt. You learn to say yes only when you truly want to. You learn that protecting your energy isn't pushing love away. It's preserving your capacity to truly love. And people notice. Some celebrate this transformation of yours. Others pull away, bothered, because you no longer fit in the roles they assigned you. And that's okay. You learn that not everyone will understand your journey, and that doesn't diminish its value. You learned that some people only wanted you broken because that way you were easier to control, and you chose to be free. Your spirituality is now alive. It's no longer a list of religious duties or empty rituals. It's a pulsating connection with the divine that permeates every moment of your day. You pray while washing dishes. You meditate while walking. You feel God in a friend's embrace, in a child's laughter, in your own heartbeat. You understand now that caring for yourself doesn't distance you from others. Actually, it brings you closer in a more authentic way. Because now you're not giving out of obligation, guilt, or fear of being abandoned. You're giving because you want to, because you choose to, because your heart is so full it naturally overflows. And the most beautiful thing is that you've become an example, without needing to preach, without needing to convince anyone of anything who's bang, just by living this union between self-love and spirituality. And people feel it. They feel the peace that emanates from you. They feel the gentle strength you carry. And some, in their moments of courage, come to you and ask, "What changed? How did you do it?" And you smile. Because you know it's not about having arrived. It's about having started. It's about having taken the first step, and then the second, and then the third. It's about having chosen every day to return to yourself, return to God, return to love. You still have challenges. Life hasn't become perfect, but your capacity to deal with challenges has completely changed. Before, every problem seemed like the end of the world. Now, you breathe, you pray, you trust. You know you've been through worse storms and survived. You know God didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. You've learned to celebrate your victories, even the small ones. That day, when you chose to rest instead of pushing yourself. That time when you treated yourself with gentleness instead of criticism. That moment when you looked at your reflection and thought something beautiful about yourself. All these small victories are monuments of your healing journey. And you learned something fundamental. Self-love isn't a destination. It's a journey. It's not something you conquer once, and that's it. It's something you cultivate daily. It's a choice you make every morning when you wake up. It's a commitment you renew every time you feel like returning to old patterns. But now you have the tools. You have awareness. You have faith. And especially, you have the experience of knowing what it's like to live without loving yourself, and what it's like to begin loving yourself. And after feeling that difference, after tasting that freedom, you never want to go back to the prison. So you continue. step by step, day after day, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Because you're worth it, because the life you're building, this life where you're your best friend and not your worst enemy, where you're God's partner and not fear's slave, where you live and don't just exist, that life is everything. And from the height of this new perspective, you look back and give thanks. You give thanks for the pain that taught you. You give thanks for the falls that strengthened you. You give thanks for every moment that brought you here. And then you look forward to the infinite horizon of possibilities and smile. Because you know the best is yet to come. And so, we reach the end of this journey. But actually, it's not an end. It's a beginning. The beginning of a new way of living. Of a new way of relating to yourself. Of a new way of walking alongside God. Because what we discovered together today wasn't something new. It was something ancient, forgotten, buried under layers of conditioning and pain. It was the simplest and deepest truth that exists. You are loved. You are valuable. You are sacred. And when you understand this, when you truly embody this, everything changes. Your relationships change. Because you no longer seek in others what only you can give yourself. Your work changes. Because you no longer depend on external achievements to feel worthy. Your health changes. Because you begin to listen to and respect your body's signals. Your entire life changes. Not overnight. Not magically. But in a real, deep, lasting way. Because change doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. And when you change from within, the world around you transforms. The teaching I want to leave with you today is this. Loving yourself isn't selfishness. It's divine obedience. When you love yourself, you're honoring God's creation. You're saying yes to the life He gave you. You're fulfilling your most fundamental purpose, to be who you were created to be. And spirituality without self-love is incomplete. It's like trying to fly with one wing. You can have all the faith in the world, can know all the scriptures, can attend all the temples, but if you don't love yourself, if you don't care for yourself, if you don't honor the divinity that lives in you, you're living only half of spiritual truth. The union between self-love and spirituality is what makes you whole. It's what gives you wings to fly. It's what allows you to be light in the world. Not because you're forcing yourself to shine, but because the brightness simply overflows from you naturally. And here's the most beautiful promise. The more you love yourself, the more you can love others. The more you connect with yourself, the more you can connect with God. The more you care for your own soul, the more you have to offer the world. It's not a solitary path. It's a path of union. Union with yourself. Union with the divine. Union with all creation. Because when you understand that the same divine spark that lives in you lives in everything and everyone, you can no longer live any way you want. You're called to live with reverence, with gratitude, with love. So, my dear, I invite you to make this day the day you choose yourself, the day you say, enough of abandoning myself, enough of criticizing myself, enough of living as if I don't matter. Because I do matter. I am important. I am loved by God. And now I choose to love myself too. And remember, you don't need to do this perfectly. You don't need to wake up tomorrow completely transformed. You just need to begin. One step at a time. One choice at a time. One conscious breath at a time. And on difficult days, when you feel like you're regressing, when the critical voice returns, when the pain seems greater than faith, remember what you learned here. Remember that you're not alone. Remember that God is with you, within you, beside you. Remember that you've survived 100% of your worst days. And you'll survive this one too. But more than survive, you'll flourish. Because that's the promise of the union between self-love and spirituality. That's the promise of healing. You don't just survive. You live. You shine. You become who you were always meant to be. And the world needs that. The world needs you. Whole. Healed. Loving yourself. Because when you love yourself, you change the world. You don't need to do anything grand. You just need to be you. And in the simple act of being you, completely, authentically, lovingly, you're already doing everything. If this message touched your heart, if something inside you moved while listening to these words, know that it's not coincidence. It's God calling you to this new beginning. It's your soul asking for attention. It's life inviting you to truly live. And you don't need to walk alone. We're here, in this sacred space between love and faith, to accompany you, to remind you, whenever you forget, of who you truly are. To show you there's beauty in the journey, even when it's difficult. To prove to you that faith and self-love, when united, can move mountains within you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, this is the invitation. Become part of this community of souls who are choosing healing, who are choosing love, who are choosing God, and activate the notification bell, because soon we'll have a new conversation, a new theme, a new opportunity to grow together spiritually. In the next video, we'll talk about something that complements everything we saw today. How to transform your wounds into wisdom. How to use pain not as a prison, but as a portal. How to make your story, no matter how painful, a testimony of faith and overcoming. Until then, take care of yourself, allow yourself, and always remember, you're not alone. God is with you, and now you're with yourself too, and that changes everything. May peace be with you, may love surround you, and may you never forget how precious you are. Until our next conversation, from the bottom of my heart to yours.